All right, you know the feeling, right? That email lands in your inbox, the subject line says audit notification, and boom, your stomach just drops. Suddenly, it is an all hands on deck mad scramble. You're digging through folders, chasing down signatures, and just praying you've checked all the right boxes. It's so stressful, it's inefficient. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if you could trade all that panic for a calm, confident, year round system? Well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about. Let's build an audit-ready culture that runs on routine, not adrenaline. You know, at the heart of all this is a really simple distinction between two kinds of agencies. On one side, you've got the agency that's all about compliance. For them, it's just a checklist they have to get through once a year. It's a cycle of ignoring it, then panicking. But on the other side, you've got an agency with a compliance culture. These folks are always ready. Not because they're constantly stressed, but because doing things the right way is just part of their daily DNA. They don't just follow the checklist. They get why it exists in the first place. Our goal today? To give you the blueprint to get from the left side of the screen to the right. And here's our roadmap for getting there. It's a clear 5-step plan. First, we'll talk about that big mindset shift from compliance to culture. Then, we're going to get super practical and actually design your year-round compliance blueprint. Next, we'll cover why documentation is literally the currency of compliance. Then, we'll lock it all in with training and self-audits. And finally, we'll look at the amazing stress-free payoff when this all comes together. So, let's start with that foundational idea, culture over compliance. Look, this is more than just a snappy phrase. It's about getting your team to shift from, ugh, we have to do this, to this is how we do our best work. It's understanding that those rules aren't there to make your life harder. They're there to keep people safe, to be fair, and to maintain public trust. When that clicks for everyone, believe me, the whole game changes. So, what does this actually look like day to day? Well, here's a perfect little example. A manager needs some basic office supplies. The total cost is tiny, way below the official dollar amount where you need to get multiple quotes. In a compliance-only agency, they just buy it and be done. But in a compliance culture, that manager makes a quick note of the purchase, saves the receipt in the right folder. No big deal. Why? Not because they were forced to, but because it's a habit. It's just good, transparent practice. It's just how they work. That is the difference. And that brings us to what I think is the most powerful part of this whole thing, your compliance blueprint. This is where we stop talking about ideas and start building the actual system. This isn't about working harder, not at all. It's about working smarter by spreading your compliance tasks across the whole year, turning this giant, scary mountain into a series of small, manageable hills. And here it is. This calendar is the engine of your new system. Instead of one giant, terrifying list before an audit, you break it down into a rhythm. Every single month, you're doing the basics. Bank reconciliations, reviewing safety numbers. Every quarter, you zoom out a bit. You look at grievance logs for things like Title VI and the ADA, you spot check some procurement files, and then you schedule the big stuff annually. Your drug and alcohol MIS report is due in March, you schedule your safety plan or PTASP review, your big Title VI program update. This calendar turns chaos into a calm, continuous process. Now, here's the secret sauce. Creating the calendar is step one, but it only works if you do two things, and these are absolutely non-negotiable. First, every single task on that calendar needs an owner, not a department, a person, a name, because if no one owns it, it's not going to get done. Simple as that. Second, this whole plan has to live on a shared calendar that everyone can see. This creates total transparency and accountability. It's not micromanaging, it's teamwork. It's making sure nothing ever falls through the cracks. All right, so we've got our calendar, we've got our owners. But you can do all that perfectly, and it won't matter one bit to an auditor if you miss this next piece. We have to talk about documentation. And the best way to think about it is like this. Documentation is the currency of compliance. It is the only thing you have to prove your worth when an auditor shows up. Just let this one sink in for a second. This quote right here says it all. You could be running the absolute best transit agency in the entire country, but if you can't prove it with paperwork, in the eyes of an auditor, it doesn't count. Your good intentions mean nothing. What you say you did means nothing. Their job isn't to trust you. Their job is to verify. And in their world, if it's not written down, it flat out didn't happen. And documentation isn't just one thing, right? It's a whole bunch of stuff. It's your high-level policies that your board has officially approved and dated. It's the step-by-step procedures that tell your staff how to actually do the work. It's the daily records, timesheets, invoices, all that. It's physical evidence like photos or sign-in sheets from trainings. And, crucially, it's your official board minutes, which prove decisions were made and approved at the highest level. Every piece tells a part of the story.
Okay, mindset shifted, calendar built, we're documenting everything. We're on a roll. But how do we make sure this new culture actually sticks around? And more importantly, how do we know our system is actually working before the real auditors show up? Well, that's where these two come in: consistent training and proactive self-audits. This is how you maintain and strengthen your system over the long haul.
You know, good training is never a one-size-fits-all deal. It has to be tailored. Of course, all your staff need to know the basics, like your code of conduct, but your safety-sensitive folks, your drivers, your mechanics, they need deep, continuous training on stuff like the drug and alcohol policy and ADA rules. And your admin and supervisory staff, they need specialized training on complex things like federal procurement or how to handle grievances. When the training is relevant to the person, they actually pay attention and use it.
So how do you know if the training is working? You audit yourself. And look, this doesn't have to be some big, scary project. Just follow these simple steps. Pick one area to start small, like procurement files or one piece of your Title VI program. Then, pull out your own policy. What did you say you were going to do? Next, pull the actual records. Did you really do it? Be honest. What's working, what's not? And then, the most important step of all, fix the issues you find. Because remember this, finding a problem yourself is a win. That's good management. Letting an external auditor find that same problem, that's a finding.
So, we've gone on quite a journey here. We've changed our mindset, we've built a proactive calendar, we've committed to documenting everything, and we're constantly checking our work with training and self-audits. So, what's the payoff? What does a year of getting this right actually look and feel like? It looks like this: a year of calm, steady, confident progress. In January, your safety plan gets approved, no drama. In March, that big MIS report is filed on time, no sweat. By June, your team does its own internal audit on procurement and passes with flying colors. In October, you can walk into that board meeting and say with confidence, our compliance status is green. And in December, you're not scrambling, you're calmly organizing files for the new year. That right there, that's the peace of mind that a real compliance culture gives you. You know, when you peel back all the layers, what we've really been building this whole time is the compliance mindset. It's that final, powerful shift away from seeing all these federal rules as just a burden you have to deal with. Instead, your whole team starts to see them for what they really are: a framework of good practices. They're the guardrails that help you keep your passengers safe, that make sure your service is fair for everyone, and that keep you accountable to the public you serve. When your team truly gets that, compliance stops being a chore and starts being a point of pride. And so we end right back where we started. That phone call, that email from the auditors. By building these year-round routines, by assigning clear ownership, by fostering this mindset, you get to choose your own adventure. You get to decide if that moment is going to be filled with panic or with calm professionalism. So the real question for you and your team is this: when that call finally comes, will you be scrambling or will you just be ready?